Have you ever wondered what happens to people after they die? Do they come back to haunt the places they once called a home? Today, I'm going to be talking about my most favorite haunted places in a little list I made especially for you guys. Hey guys, it's me, Bella Amy, the Twilight Princess here, and today I'm going to be talking about my most favorite haunted places in the world. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like, and leave me your theories down below in the comments if you Number 1, the Whaley House in San Diego, California. San Diego, they picture gorgeous beaches, beautiful weather, and cultural and artistic attractions. But for those who have an affinity for the paranormal, San Diego beckons investigation with its rich and dark past, haunted spots, spiritual encounters, and inexplicable events. The most haunted of all San Diego places is without a doubt the Whaley House. While the story of the Whaley House's origins may seem as simple and innocent as any family history, the truth is many believe this home was destined to be haunted before it was even built. The property was the site of one of the town's most famous public executions, that of the hanging of the famous thief Yankee Jim Robinson. But Thomas Whaley was not daunted by this fact, and in 1855 purchased the land and began construction of what would be his family home. And the house, which was the first brick building in California, was a beautiful example of Greek Revival architecture. Thomas, his wife Anna, and their 3 children moved into the house in 1857, and within a few months opened a general store inside the residence. The first death. It wasn't long after the Whaley family moved into the home that sadness and despair were thrust upon them. First, their young son Thomas, who was only 18 months old, died of scarlet fever inside the house. Then a few months later, a fire raged within the home, destroying the general store. Soon after, Thomas decided to move the family to San Francisco. Several years later, in 1868, the Whaley family, which now included Thomas, his wife, and their 5 children, returned to the home. Once the family returned, the Whaley house was again bustling with activity. It became the headquarters for the city courthouse, San Diego's first theater troupe, a general store, and more. But in 1870, local merchants began to move to the newly established new town, which is now the Gaslamp Quarter, abandoning Old Town and leaving it eerily quiet. Thomas Whaley was not ready to give up and continued to live in the home. In 1871, when Thomas was away on a business trip, a group of armed men held Anna Whaley at gunpoint as they seized the courthouse records from the home. This many say was a turning point for the family in the house. Several years later, 2 of the Whaley daughters got married inside the home. Violet, the younger of the 2, married George, and although she gave it her best effort, the marriage was unbearable, leaving Violet divorced and full of despair. She was so wrought with depression that she decided she could not live with the shame and shot herself in the head. It shot herself in the chest on August 18, 1885. Over the years, many descendants of the Whaley family lived and died in the house, including Thomas, Anna, and their children Lillian, Thomas, Violet, and Francis. During its restoration periods, which took place several different times throughout the home's history, workers and visitors began to notice strange and mysterious sounds, sights, aromas, and encounters. The first and most well-known ghost that lingered within the house and on its ground was that of Yankee Jim Robinson, as he had died right on the spot where the home was built. The infamous criminal made eerie noises, loud footsteps, and left disembodied footprints, continuing scaring Whaley family members throughout their lifetimes. Baby Thomas, who'd been the first in the family to pass away, had always stayed close by, as reported by many who have visited the home. They could hear tiny footsteps, the sound of him crying, even giggling when no one was in sight. Others report seeing a young woman lingering on the second floor of the house, believed to be poor Violet, still consumed with sorrow. She seems to stay close to the second floor, where she spent much of her time after her divorce before she committed suicide. It is said that areas within the home become quite cold, and her presence is felt throughout. Thomas, Anna, and several other spirits have also been felt within the home. On the stairwells and on the on the property, many have seen Thomas dressed in his frock, coat, and top hat, standing at the top of the stairs. Others say that they could smell the aroma of French perfume and his signature scent. Lights turning on and off by themselves. Crystals in the music room's lamp swinging without any prompt. All signs that the Whaley house still belongs to the many people who called it home over the years. Although no one has lived in the house since 1953, the spirits of the dead are still there, waiting for visitors. Workers on site and guests who've toured the house tell accounts of many unusual and spooky encounters. Some say they've seen a figure looking out this upstairs window long after the house has closed for the day. Others have seen curtains moving even though all the windows in the home had been sealed shut. The sound of children running up and down the stairs can be heard without anyone's being seen. Footsteps, cold spots, the appearance and disappearance of shadows have all been seen, felt, and heard by guests. Are these stories true? Come explore. Number 2, Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California.
Hey everyone, unfortunately I could not find any really good official website for the Sarah Winchester Mystery House online. I've looked forever and I couldn't really find anything, but I know the history of it and I love the house. I don't know why. I like it. It's one of my favorite haunted places that I've ever looked up and discovered. I know a lot of them because I've done so much research on haunted stuff because I'm totally into that. Anyway, I'm not going to be telling the story or history of it since I can't find anything online that's good. But I'm going to be leaving a link to a description down below of a video that tells the history of the Winchester house. It's a channel called The Speaksy. I watched their channel. They're really cool. This is the Speaksy's channel. They are a really cool channel that makes videos of haunted places in the USA or just different places in a list. And they have a video of the Winchester Mystery House, really a video of it, them explaining the whole history, who haunts the house, everything. And I'm gonna leave that link in the description down below so you guys can go check it out. And also, I think you should subscribe to the Speaksy's channel because they have really cool content and I watch it. And here's the about description if you guys want to read it. No, I read the about descriptions on everyone's channel to see what it's about. It says, "Hello and welcome to the Speaksy. Our focus lies on the education of various world histories, cultures, and the paranormal activity, urban legends, and ghost stories that surround them. If you're interested in haunted places, supernatural phenomena, cryptids, and things that go bump in the night, you found the right place. Just be warned. It's disturbing how often myth merges with reality, and we can't promise some of our fables won't hit close to home. So grab a snack, get comfy, turn out the lights, and throw on one of our..."
Told me the world
Number 3, the Lizzie Borden house in Fall River, Massachusetts.
On the morning of August 4th, 1892, Andrew and Abby were murdered and mutiled in their Fall River home. Lizzie alerted the maid, Bridget, to her father's dead body. He had been attacked and killed while sleeping on the sofa. A search of the home led to the discovery of the body of Abby Borden in an upstairs bedroom. Like her husband, Abby was the victim of a brutal hatchet attack. Policemen called to the scene suspected Lizzie immediately, although she was not taken into custody at that time. Her sister was out of town at the time and was never a suspect. During the week between the murders and her arrest, Lizzie burned a dress that she claimed was stained with paint. Prosecutors would later allege that the dress was stained with blood and that Lizzie had burned the dress in order to cover up her crime. Lizzie was indicated on December 2nd, 1892. Her wildly publicized trial began the following June in New Bedford. Lizzie did not take the stand in her own defense, and her inquest testimony was not admitted into evidence. The testimony provided by others inconclusive. The testimony provided by others proved inconclusive. On June 20th, 1893, Lizzie was acquitted of the murders. No one else was ever charged with the crimes. Lizzie and Emma inherited a significant portion of their father's estate, which allowed them to purchase a new home together. The Borden sisters lived together for the following decade. Although free, Lizzie was considered guilty by many of her neighbors and thusly never enjoyed acceptance in the community following her trial. Her reputation was further tarnished when she was accused of shoplifting in 1897. In 1905, Emma abruptly moved out of the house that she shared with her sister. The two never spoke again. Emma may have been uncomfortable with Lizzie's close friendship with another woman, Nance O'Neill. Although her silence on the issue has fueled speculation that she learned new details about the murder of her father and stepmother, no member of the household staff even offered additional information on the rift, even following Lizzie's death. Lizzie died of pneumonia in Fall River, Massachusetts on June 1st, 1927. Emma Borden died days later in Newmarket. The home is now a fully functional bed and breakfast, housing guests from all over the country. You can even stay in the Lizzie suite and sleep in the bed she slept in. Reports consist of spectral cats, apparitions, self-rocking rocking chairs, and even that Lizzie herself still haunts the home, choking guests that lay in her bed. The dining room table on which guests enjoy their meals is where Abby and Andrew were autopsied. Guests who stay at the Lizzie Borden house have captured photos of strange anomalies floating by their beds, noises coming from inside wardrobes, footsteps, laughter like that of Lizzie's the morning of the murders. And some have even reported being touched by an unseen hand while they slept. Even though there wasn't enough evidence to convict Lizzie for the murders of her father and stepmother, many believe that she committed the crimes because she stood to gain the most financially from their deaths, not to mention the searching resentment she felt towards her stepmother. And not to mention the searing resentment she felt towards her stepmother. To this day, questions swirl around the Lizzie Borden case, and whoever murdered the couple was never brought to justice. This alone is enough to keep spirits in a state of unrest, let alone how horrific their deaths were. So will you stay in the Lizzie Borden?
Number 4, the Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa.
The Villisca Axe Murder House in Iowa is the kind of attraction that speaks for itself. It doesn't need added kissage or loads of billboards to bring in visitors. The name of the place says it all.
and the gruesome legends surrounding the house are the only advertisements needed. The publicity comes naturally, mostly from true crime and ghost enthusiasts. In the very early morning hours of June 11, 1912, sometime between midnight and 5 a.m., 8 people were bludgeoned to death with an axe inside the home of the Moore family, including all 6 members and 2 friends of one of the daughters. 6 of the victims were children. The night of June 10th, mere hours before the killings, the family had gone to church, which ended at 9:30 p.m. and arrived back at the house around 9:45 or 10. Cigarette butts in the attic led investigators to believe that the killer snuck into the attic while the family was out and hid there until they fell asleep. Like most people in Villisca at the time, the Moore family didn't lock the doors to their house when they went to church. The parents, Josiah and Sarah Moore, were the first victims. The killer only used the blade of the weapon on Josiah, who received the most brutal beating. The rest of the victims were murdered with the blunt side of the axe, which had belonged to Josiah. The family friends who were staying in the guest room, Ina Mae Stillinger, age 8, and Lena Gertrude Stillinger, age 12, were the last to be killed. All of the victims except Lena appeared to have been asleep when they died. Lena was the only one who appeared to have defensive wounds and was lying across the bed. The axe was left in the guest room next to a 4-pound piece of slab bacon. At some point, the killer had covered all of the mirrors in the house with blankets and clothes and cooked himself a plate of food, which was left untouched in the kitchen. He also left behind a bowl of bloody water. There's something so hauntingly intriguing about little details like this in unsolved murder. The gruesome killings were discovered the next morning when Mary Peckham, the Moore's neighbor, noticed that the family hadn't started their morning chores around 7 a.m. She called Russ Moore, Josiah's brother, who let himself in with his copy of the house key. After discovering the bodies of the Stillingers, he called the local police officer, who called in investigators. There were plenty of suspects, but the murder was never solved. One suspect, Reverend George Kelly, was actually tried for the murders. Kelly was a traveling minister who was in town the night of the crime. He was at the service the Moore family attended before their deaths, but inexplicably left town between 5 and 5:30 a.m. the next morning. He showed a suspicious interest in the murders, though, and after being in and out of trouble with the law for sending obscene material through the mail and a stint in a mental hospital, he was arrested for the murders in 1917. He confessed and recanted and was eventually tried and acquitted. It seems that most people didn't believe that he was mentally or physically capable of the murders. Naturally, a house with such a dark and mysterious past quickly attracted rumors of a haunting. The house was lived in for years after the murder, although families were never stayed for long. From what I can tell, there's not a ghostly phenomena that hasn't been reported at the house. Disembodied footsteps, things moving, voices of apparitions, bad vibes. You name it, the Villisca Axe Murder House has it. It's been on basically every ghost hunting show, from Ghost Adventures, which is my absolute favorite ghost show of all time, and it's this people right here who are in this picture that made a video Now that you know the story of the Villisca Axe murders, I can now tell you what I think. They only said one murder, or like one suspect who was in that, who was like you know, accused of killing the Moore family.
They only said one guy, but there's a few. But there's one that you need to know that I think made the case be solved, because look at this scene in Ghost Adventures, my favorite TV show. They went to the Villisca Axe murder house. I'm going to show y'all a scene that I found from watching the show that I think solves the murder of the
Give us a name. What is the murderer's name? What is the murderer's name? On June 18th, 1912, Andy Sawyer was detained by the sheriff as a suspect in the Villisca axe murders. The day after the incident, this deranged homeless man made crazed mutterings about the murder to his employer, along with several suspicious relevant actions. His employer's son witnessed Andy Sawyer suddenly jump up and say to himself, "I will cut your damn heads off." At the same time, Andy made striking motions. It was also a fact that Andy Sawyer slept with his axe.